Hey y'all, happy Sunday and welcome to this week's live Q&A session. This is the portion of the show where we allow YouTube to send out notifications that we're going live. If you're watching this live Q&A on replay, please scrub ahead until this graphic disappears and the actual show begins. If you're watching live and you have any comments or questions, please go ahead and put them in the live chat. But for now, grab a beverage, sit back, and relax while the countdown timer does its thing. Then we'll get started. Happy Sunday, everybody. How y'all doing out there? We're going to see how long I can go. We'll see how long my voice will last. Last week, I was sicker than a dog and down for the count. I really don't cancel these things lightly. In fact, it was ranked like the second one I've missed in 5 years of doing this. But, we all have our issues from time to time. So, what I'm going to do today is pick up where we left off week before last and get back into texturing, this time using a gadget called the Texturing Toolbox. But we'll get into that in a minute. First, I want to give a couple of shout outs. Um, First and foremost, I want to shout out Steve at Harnal Media. The man is just absolutely phenomenal. He's more than just a website designer and web host. He's a friend. And, how he does everything he does, I have absolutely no idea. But the man is everywhere all at the same time. He's very, very competitively priced and 100% personalized service. So if you're looking to create a website to create increase your web presence, you want to build a web store, create an e-commerce site where you can put your goods and services out there in front of millions, no better way to do it than with your own website. And the only person I will ever recommend is Steve over at Harnal Media. There's a link to Harnal Media in every single video on this channel, and it's that way for a reason. So do yourself a favor, go over to Harnal Media, click that contact us button, and have a chat with Steve. And that's who you'll be chatting with. When you contact Harnal Media, you're talking to Steve. You're not talking to some nameless, faceless person in a call center somewhere. So, Harnal Media, link in the description below. Let's see. Whoops. I forgot to take that down. That's okay. All right. Let's see. Let's get over here and get into Aspire. Because there's a couple of things that we're going to need to do before we start playing around with textures and what have you. And that is, we're going to need to add the Texture Toolbox Gadget to Aspire. So if I go up here to my Gadgets menu, I don't have the Texture Toolbox here. I have several gadgets, but not that one. So, hey, thank you, Oz. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you very much for that super sticker. I tell you, I have the best viewers on YouTube. You guys are the greatest. Very, very much appreciated. Okay, so I did not put a link to these gadgets in the description of this video simply because it all depends on which version of the software you have. When you download and install a gadget, you have to make sure it's for your current version. I'm using version 11. So what I found to be the easiest was just to do a simple Google search for Vectric gadgets. And the very first result is the gadgets library at Vectric itself. And we see here, they have one here for version 11, version 10, version 9, version 8. So if you're still using 10.5, you'll want to go to the gadget library for version 10. That's for that entire family. The same with 9, the same with 8. So the gadget must be compatible with what version of the software you're using. So I'm going to come over here to the version 11 library. And here we have gadgets for various types of work, whether it be drawing, modeling, toolpaths, or job or file management. The Texture Toolbox is a toolpathing gadget. So we're going to click on that. and it's going to open up the tool pathing gadgets. And here's where you'll find the box creator, the chamfer gadget, the dado toolpath creator, a dog bone gadget, all kinds of different gadgets here. But this is the one that we're looking at, is the texture toolbox. So I'll click on that, and here we're talking about an overview of what it does, how it works, some basic instructions, to include some videos on how to use the texture toolbox. So come back up here and I'm going to download it. Now, let me head this off before we even get started or too deeply into it. Gadgets are only available in Cut 2D Pro, VCarve Pro, and Aspire. They are not available to Cut 2D Desktop or VCarve Desktop. So if in your software you don't see a gadgets menu, this is not available to you. You will need to upgrade to the Pro version. Okay. So to go ahead and to get this gadget, I'll go ahead and I'll download it. And I'm going to put it in my downloads folder. And we'll save it. And okay, the gadget is done. Let me go ahead to that folder, and there it is right there. That's fine. So now what I'll need to do is I'll need to go into Aspire, and it should be now in my menu. Or no, it won't be. I have to install it. We'll install new gadget. I'll navigate to my downloads folder, and there it is right there. I'll select it, open, read the agreement, and agree, and now it's installed. The new gadget is now available from the gadgets menu. Okay, let's see. Go up, and there it is, the texture toolbox. Now, before I'm ready to use the texture toolbox, I need to have some vectors out here to texture. It's not going to do anything if it has nothing to texture. So what I have here is I have a sheet of 2.5-inch thick material that is 96 inches long, 48 inches high and wide. So a sheet of sheet foam. So let's go into our vector texture tool, and I'm just going to look at what this looks like. Whatever, let's just look and see what it looks like. And it's creating some vectors here. Boy, taking its time too. Oh man, there we go. Oh wow, that is extremely busy. We're going to back that down quite a bit. Don't like that at all. Let's try something else here. Let's go with something a little bit closer to 36 degrees there. Line spacing was 1/8 of an inch apart. No, that's not going to work. Let's see here. Let's go with maximum line spacing of 1 1/8. And let's go with medium variation Our amplitude 1 inch, our wavelength 16 inches. I'm going to turn the noise way down. Now let's preview that. That should be a heck of a lot easier. There we go. That's a little better. We do have kind of a random pattern in there. I'm going to take the variation down to 0 just so we can see the effects. There we go. Okay, now we can see the effects of the toolbox. Now, the vector texture tool creates these vectors and automatically groups them. This is something that we need to remember a little bit later on, okay? So now I have my vectors that I want to use with the toolbox. I've got to select them, then I can go into the gadget and I can go into the texture toolbox. Now up here at the top, they have a list of instructions that explains what all of these blanks mean. You can collapse these instructions so you just have the form, or you can expand those instructions. I like to leave them open just as a reminder of what I'm going to do down here in these blanks. So now what we need to do is we need to look at our change rate and our cut depths. Now it says up here, changing the minimum and maximum change rate means how many times it's going to change the depth of cut along a single vector. Now, before, when we were using the texture toolpath with the vector texture selector, we could vary the cut depth. But if it selected, for example, this vector right here, it cut that entire vector at that depth. Then it cut this one at a different depth, then this one at a different depth. Here, we're changing the depth along that vector. Now we need to tell it how many times we want it to change that depth. So if we have a minimum change rate of 1 and a maximum change rate of, let's say, 6, is going to change depths of cut at least once up to 6 times. And it's going to do that at random. Okay? If we set both of these numbers to the same uh, change rate, if they're the same, there won't be any change. Now we're going to get our depth of cut. So I'm going to start with a minimum cut diameter of 1/4 of an inch. And I've got 2.5 inch thick material. So I want it to go to a maximum of 1 3/4 inch. Whoops. Decimals are important. Okay. Now we have cut direction. I can go normal, and what normal is, it will cut in the same direction, meaning it will start at wherever the start point is on these vectors, go in that direction, lift up, rapid back, plunge down, and cut the next vector. That's normal. You would use that if you want all of your changes in depth here. If you want them all basically following the same guide, the same direction, then you would use normal. You can alternate them so that it will alternate at random. Or excuse me, no, it'll alternate. It will start here at the start point, cut its way over to the end, lift up, and then come back this direction.
then lift up, come back this direction. Then you can randomize, meaning it will decide when it's going to cut back in the opposite direction and how many times. 8th Center says it changes the depth of cut on a ramp type thing then. Yes, it ramps in, it will cut and plunge deeper as it's cutting, giving you that very depth look. Alternate until every. You could have it alternate every 2 vectors, every 3 vectors, every 4 vectors, however many you want to do. It'll cut normal for, let's go with 3 vectors. It would cut normal for 3 vectors, then it would come back and alternate for 3 vectors. Then it would cut normal for 3 vectors, then alternate for 3 vectors. Okay? Then we have rotate vector 180. I'll demonstrate this in a minute. Rotate every other. I'll demonstrate this in a minute as well. Now, in order to use this is going to calculate a toolpath. So we need to get in and select the tool that we're going to use. So for this, I'm going to use a 1 1/4" core box bit. Select that. And I'm going to name the texture. This is texture 36 degree. And we'll click OK. Now it doesn't look like anything has happened because out here nothing has, but now you see the different directions it's going to carve. It has calculated the toolpath for me. If I look at it, here we go. So we'll go in and we'll preview our toolpath, and yeah, I'll go ahead and use this. I may switch to a solid color here. We'll see. And we'll preview that toolpath. This is going to take a while to run. Can you use this for parametric designs? I don't think so. I don't think so. I know what you're referring to, Brooks, but I don't think so. I don't think this is the one. We can see that it is varying the cut depth along the cut. Some of them are cutting real deep down in here along the waves. Some are cutting real shallow along the higher areas here. We've got a wider flat expanse right in here where the bit was running shallower. And we've got, looks like almost merging where they cut real deep, real close together. So you can get a lot of interesting little nuances to these designs doing it this way. Okay, Michael said, no, that doesn't work that way. Sorry. Yeah. Well, hey. Let's see. Russell Faraday says, Gadget is giving me an idea. Can this be projected to a surface? I really do not know. We'll explore that. We'll explore that. Okay, there we go. There's the finished panel. And what started off is just a look at the height of that thing. I would definitely do a profile cutout pass. But maybe not, just depending. Are you going to make 4 or 5 of these and then put them all together on a wall? So Let's see here. Let me go into this toolpath, and no, you cannot project this onto a 3D model. Sorry, Russell. Sorry. All right, let's see here. Wendell says if you change a parameter and have to recalculate it, it's not parametric. Right. Right. Now, let's just, for giggles, say that we like this and we want to keep this. With this still selected, we can go back into the gadget and all of the settings that we had here. We can come in and we can save these settings. And we can put these settings in a folder where we know we're going to keep all these texture settings. Then after we have saved them, if we ever want to use this particular texture again on something smaller, we can just open the gadget and load the settings. Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll save these settings, and it goes to a folder called Texture Toolbox Saved Settings. This is, I can't think of the word. Oh, come on, Mark. It's set automatically within the toolbox, the gadget. So I'll call this, what did I call this? 36-degree texture. And I'll save it. Okay. Now I can hello. Come on, Aspire. Russell says, oh, well, a request to Vectric eminent. Yes. And that's an excellent point. If you have questions, comments, concerns about the texture toolbox or any other gadget, if you are not on the Vectric user group, the Vectric user forum, you are doing yourself a disservice. By all means, get over here, forum.vectric.com, register, create a profile, and get into it. I mean, there's a forum for Aspire, there's a forum for VCarve, Cut 2D, the laser module, Cut 3D, Photo VCarve, Design and Make, and there is a forum for the gadgets. If you have, this is gadget releases. These are all the gadgets that are available now. These are general discussions about the gadgets. These are user created gadgets. People, third party individuals want to, people want to create their own gadgets. They'll put them in here. And here is gadget requests. So, Russell, there you go. You can get in here and submit suggestions for gadgets. So, there's all kinds of different things. And there are some excellent, excellent users over here. And some of the Vectric employees as well frequent this. I know the developers frequent it quite often. So, all right, let's see if this ready to go. It is ready to go. Okay. So let me click off and get back over here. And, oh, I see what it did. It was still saving. Okay. I'm going to, let's go ahead and delete both of these. That's what it was doing. Delete all. Okay. That's going to take it a couple more seconds. Yep, that's going to take it a couple of more seconds. So, with that in mind, sorry, that was a coffee sip. If I'm sounding nasal or hoarse or anything, that's just me. That's what's going on. Let's see. Though they could let you keep or provide a seed for their pseudo-random generator, so the exact same random pattern could be recreated. Michael Bernasconi has an answer for that, Ayal, and that is correct. This is a Aspire only solution to that, but you can save the preview out here in the 3D view as a component. So, okay. All right. So it can't be undone. That's good. I'm not concerned about it because what I can do is I can go back up here to the gadget, to the texture toolbox. Oh, that's right. We'll get into this in just a second here. Let me go ahead and draw a vector because what I wanted to demonstrate was the fact that you do not have to use the vectors that are in the texture toolbox. You can use the any vectors, but you have to do a few things. Okay. So let me start by drawing a line over here. And I know it's not straight. I don't want it straight. And we'll do a line over here. And we'll call that good. Now, if I want to use these vectors to create texture, I can open the texture toolbox, but it's going to say the gadget was designed to be used with vectors created using the vector texture tool, this tool here. If you wish to use your own vectors, you must first group them, then run the gadget. So you can use your own vectors. You can group them by tapping G on the keyboard, then go into the texture toolbox and it will use those. Okay. Now, that was just to demonstrate that you could use your own vectors. I'm going to go ahead and delete those, and I'm going to create some different vectors using this. I'm going to go back to a flat 0 degree angle. Max spacing, I'm going to do 4-inch spacing. Amplitude of 3 inches and a wavelength of 18 inches. It's not going to be really wild. We'll preview that. Yeah, that's pretty generic. So I'll say okay to that. And I'm saying okay to that because we have other settings. Now, if we like most of the settings from that last texture, we go into the texture toolbox with these vectors selected, and we can leave these settings. We want it to change 6 times over the length of the vector. We want our minimum and maximum cut depth. I'm going to reduce this down to 1.5. I'm gonna leave it normal on my cut direction. I'm not gonna alternate because what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the vector every other vector. So every other vector is going to be flipped 180 degrees. And select tool. Let's let's go with the 1-inch core box bit. And I'm going to call this 180 flip. And we'll click OK. Now, you'll notice the vectors didn't change, but the toolpath looks a little different. Let's reset our preview. And we'll preview it. Now that produced something that was unexpected. Let me go back into this and check it out. Let's go back into the gadget and look at this. That was unexpected. It's supposed to rotate every 2. And what did this do? All it did was it flipped this one over, then it flipped this one and this one over. That doesn't make any sense, because it didn't work that way in my practice. Let's change it to every 1. Nope, it's still not doing what it did in my practice. That's odd. Okay, looks like I'm having an issue. Oh, this is great. Go back over. Oops, don't get out of preview. What it did last time was every alternate vector flipped over and created those the strange patterns that I demonstrated last week. Now, let me get in here and make sure that I've got this set up right here. I've got the cut direction set at normal. I've got rotate every. Now, what I did last time was rotate every 2. And I selected the tool. Everything was fine. Click OK. And okay, what it's doing, it's flipping along that axis. It's not flipping along the Y. It's flipping, well, it's flipping that one along the Y. And it's flipping this one and this one along the Y. Yeah, something's not right. I have something else going on. No, it does not have anything to do with my alternate every 3, because that's not checked. Let me try a smaller bit. Let's delete that one. In fact, I'm going to delete them all. It'll take a minute, but that's okay. I want to get this correct. All right, there we go. So come out of preview, go over here. It might be something in my setting. Try alternate only. Will do. Thank you, Michael. All right, gadgets. No, not about gadgets. What am I doing? Texture Toolbox. Cut direction. Well, see, I don't have that option. I have normal or rotate every. The alternate that's cutting from the different direction. But this will rotate the I don't know why it would be doing that. Let's give it a shot. The tool, I'm gonna reduce it down to a 1/2 inch ball nose, just so I can see a little bit better. Then we'll click OK. And nope, it's still just, it's not flipping along the Y. And it's still just flip these 2 vectors down here and these 2 vectors up here. There's something going on in the background. Let's see. Yeah, everything was fine is usually where things go sideways. Yeah, it did not do that in my practice sessions. And I've been playing with this for a couple of weeks, knowing that this was coming up. I do not get it at all. Let's see here. Well, select that and go back into the texture creator here. Let's see. I don't know if these all have to be. Let's see. This is 24. Let me try an amplitude of 4. I don't know if this has to be divisible, if it has to be evenly divisible by the width. So preview that and click OK. Now let's go into the gadgets. Let's try this. I'll go back to normal. Rotate every 2. Let's select the tool. Got it. Select. Then we'll click OK. Nope. Still only flipping this vector and this vector. This and these 2. That had no other change. I'll have to work through it and see what's going on. Do you have to click on Save Settings? No, you don't. Saving the settings is optional. That's only if you want to save that particular pattern. Save that particular pattern's settings, that is. So I'll dig into this and figure out what is going on with it, because it's not, what it's doing is it's flipping the vectors 180 along the Y, except for these top vectors here. So try spacing the vectors out a bit more. Well, I can try that. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Let me go back over here and delete these. Let's delete all. Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, I know it's gonna be past the maximum undo stack. That's fine. Okay, close this. And, oh, wait, no, I wanted to go over here and go back into the texture toolpath, or vector texture tool, rather. There we go. Spread them out a little bit more. Let's go for 6 inches. Preview that. See what we get. That opens that up a little bit more. Yeah, let's leave it that way. Go OK. Select. I don't think either of those was a factor. See. Yeah, it's supposed to rotate every other. Okay, well, I don't get it, but what the heck. Let's try it. Okay, I think we've got it now. I think it got it now. Yes, we have it now. Wow. Man, that's what it was. It was the spacing. Evidently the spacing between has to be a multiple of the width. I really thought, since it's 96, I thought 4 would do it. Evidently, I needed to go with 6. Okay, fine. All right, so we can now, well, with the half-inch bit, that's not going to really do much, but we can preview it now. And that's going to make for definitely an interesting texture. But I think it would look better with a wider bit. So we'll call this, I'll rename it, Texture Flip half-inch. And I'll reset the preview. Come back up here, go into the gadget, and I'll make another one with a 2¼ inch core box bit. Select, changing nothing else. I'll call this 2.25 inch box bit. Okay, 2.25 inch box. And there's that one. Now, come back to the 3D view and we'll preview that one. Much wider. The plunges are going much deeper, and they do overlap, which is what I was looking for. They overlap in spots, and the pattern of the islands left behind are wide open. But they're just a little bit different. Sometimes they're connected, sometimes they're separated. That's what I was after. Yeah, I'm glad too, David. Thank you for the suggestion. Yeah, it needs that. Evidently it does need that space, but I wanted them to overlap. So this leads me to try one more thing. I'm sitting here gesturing with my hands, like you can see, but that leaves an intriguing texture there. So I don't know. I kind of think that would be cool. And the canvas is still pretty blank. I mean, you could still V-carve in each one of these little islands here if you wanted to, or even carve a small 3D rosette or something of that nature. But it's it's a blank canvas. The choice is yours wholeheartedly. But you can sure see how that plays off of those vectors. I don't know. I still like to get those closer together. But let's see. Very cool, much smaller bit, and there's stockings for my legs tape. Yep, there you go. There you go. Deviled egg dishes, yeah. Now, if we were to take these same vectors and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete these. Hello. I'm going to delete these. Thank you. Let's go back in here and I want to tighten these up. I want to space them closer together. I want to go 4 inches. And let's preview. Okay. Now what I can do is I can select, ungroup, click off. Now I can come in and select every other vector on my own. Hello, there we go. Then come over here to the mirror tool. I don't want to create a mirrored copy. I don't want to flip about the job center. I just want to flip these vertically. Okay. Close that. Now I can select all of those vectors, group them. Now I can use the texture toolbox, and I'm going to go normal, normal, and now all it's going to do is it's going to alternate the changes in depth. I'm going to change this to 0.5, so a ½ inch down to 1.5 inches. And that's all I'm going to use. And I will call this, what would we call this? I'll call it egg crate. It kind of resembles an egg crate. What tool am I going to use? Don't know that I want to use the 2 1/4 inch. I'll go with the 1 1/4 inch. Select that one, and we'll try it. Okay. It's calculating. Okay, it has it calculated. And we'll go into our 3D view, and let's preview that and see what we get. Yeah, it's gonna have that expanded metal look for sure. Now there's a couple of things here that I want to point out that I don't really like right off the bat. And that is, I think some of these depth changes are a bit too dramatic because, for instance, like right here, you have a real steep drop off because this one was cut deeper down here, but it was cut shallower than this one here. I don't know if I like that. That might be interesting. Well, it's certainly interesting. I just don't know if I like that or not. That's something I'd have to play with. I don't know. But yeah, that does look intriguing. And again, there's nothing that says you have to use, say, a core box bit or a ball nose end mill. You can use a V bit. You can use a an OG bit. Anything that has a cutter all the way across the bottom that'll do this type of plunge cut, a bowl and tray bit, things of that nature, you can use them. In fact, let's rename this. I'm going to rename it right here. There we go. 1.25 box. And I'm going to create another one. Let's reset the preview. Come out of the, and we'll use the toolbox. I'm going to leave all the other settings the same. I'm just going to go with let's go with a big 90-degree V-bit. And let's try this. And we'll call it egg crate 90 degree. And click OK. Now let's see what it looks like with the V-bit. Completely different texture. Yes, and you do not have to randomize the depth. Yes, you're absolutely right. Could you create a reverse image depth-wise of this pattern so it would look like some sort of fence on top of the surface? That's intriguing, Eyal. That's intriguing. I think that would be something different. I think that would be extruding along those vectors, extruding a shape along those vectors, but that could be interesting. Let's see here. Take a look at that. I think that's interesting as well. I don't know. I think I would tend to bring my cut depth to down below. You can see these straight edges here. That's a remnant of this V-bit cutting deeper than the width of the cutting flutes, or the height of the overall bit. Let's take a look at that tool here. That's a 1.25 inches. Yeah, we've got the carbide cutters up the side, so that's safe, but we've run out of angle. So I would probably want to make my depth of cut, something a little bit better, a little bit more in line with the abilities of the bit, if I wanted to avoid these vertical walls here and have something more like this area over here. But again, you could also run these at one depth. So, and basically the way to do that, to keep from having this varied depths, is to again go up into the texture toolbox and just set these to the same number. Okay. So basically there is no change rate at all. Okay. So I'll call this, I'll call this NC for no change. Click OK. And there we've got that. And we'll preview. And now it's going to cut everything at the proper depth. And we have much better matchups here where the vectors overlap one another. That's still a pretty deep cut. I could back off on that. But it's a lot more uniform and a lot less haphazard. It's all cutting to the same depth. Just got to make sure the bit is capable of doing that. So, yes, Bob, very much snakeskin looking, almost. Yeah. And in fact, that could be used as a pretty cool texture. Now, here's what we were talking about a little bit earlier. If we keep the preview open, and this is Aspire only, you come up to Model, Create Component from Toolpath Preview. This is Aspire only. That will make a 3D component out of this preview. So, I'm not prepared to do that. I don't want to do that. Make sure you have your perspective set the way you want it. Okay. Greg, STL Woodworking, how you doing? Can you make it not jump around as much so that it cuts from the bottom to the top to save time? Within that gadget, I don't know of a way to do that. Within the gadget, I don't know a way you can do that. So, for those of you who don't know, Greg, STL Woodworking, he's got a Avid CNC much bigger than mine, smart aleck, but that's okay. He's got a good YouTube channel. Go check him out. If you're not subscribed, do so at this time. And I'll go scout out a link, find a link to Greg's YouTube channel, and put it down in the description of this one. He's good people. He's got some good looking projects over there, believe me. So he's going through a little bit of let's not call it growing pains, but he's entered a whole new world because he's come from his Shapeoko to an Avid CNC that I believe is 4x12, 4x10, one of the two. But do head over. He's got some great looking projects over there. Jim Brown asking, can you distort the lines? Yeah, you can do whatever you would like to. Steve is already on it. There he is. STO Woodworking YouTube channel. There you go. So, and he's got a 4x10 with rotary. Okay. Excuse me, sir. This is the non-gloating section. Okay. But yeah, thank you very much, Steve, for posting that up. There's a link to Greg's channel, and I'll put one down on the description as soon as we're done live here. Let's see. Let's reset the preview, and let's shoot over here and take these vectors here. Now, even though, see, the thing about this is you can distort these. You can get into the distort tool and do whatever you'd like with them. But if you're talking about adding noise within the vector texture tool, that is better done, adding noise, that's better done before you do that, before you flip vectors. Let's try it, but I don't know that it's going to help me out. I don't think it is. If I start adding noise, click preview, I think it's just going to create another set of vectors over the top of these. Yeah. So, that's not what you want. If you want these vectors, noise put into these vectors, you'll need to do that before you ungroup and mirror them, then regroup. So but yeah, you can get into the distort tool and you can play around. We're going to use a bounding box, and we're going to apply. Now we can get in and we can stretch our bounding box out here and come up like so. Stretch it out a little bit. Let's add a point right there and stretch that somewhat, and then add a point over. Let's put it up here. Come on. Okay, zoom in. Do I have to add a point? Insert a point. Okay. And we'll pull that down. Zoom out. We'll pull that down a little more. There we go. You can do all kinds of weird stuff. The thing to remember is once you get finished, you need to bake the distortion. If you don't bake the distortion, it hasn't really taken effect. I'm still, when I select these vectors, whether I'm within this tool or not, I'll close it. I mean, I guess I can use them, but that distortion has not been baked in. It's not a permanent change. So we'll need to go in and bake that distortion. Oh, it's not responding. All right, let it go in here. Let's see. I would like to make waves. Yeah, you can certainly do it. You can distort those vectors separately, or you can distort them in groups. I mean, there's no end. So, okay, done. They're still all separate vectors. I would do like so. Well, no, I wouldn't either. I would come in, draw a rectangle with square edges. I want it on my X 0, Y 0 square corners. And I want my X to be X equals. I want my Y to be Y equals. Create. Then select all. Control A. Let's close that. Hold down Shift. Deselect that rectangle I just made. Then select it again. Hold down Shift. Select it. Come over here to under Edit Objects to trim selected objects. I want to clear everything outside the boundary being the last thing I selected. Click Clear, Close, and now I have only the vectors that are on the material. Now I can delete that rectangle that I trimmed it to. And that gives me kind of sort of a fishnet look. Yeah. Yeah. All righty. Let's see here what we've got. What else do we have here? Yeah, there we go. Epoxy fill them, then rerun the same tool path. Z0 set a tad higher. Texture follows the epoxy fill. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That could be real intriguing. I mean, I could see that being done with the texture tool path. I could see that being done with those exact same vectors. You could use just a profile tool path with a different angle V-bit and cut shallower, cut machining on the vector with one steady depth. You would be able to come in and then fill it with another color. Say, for instance, you do your first epoxy fill in black, you could do a silver stripe right down the center of that black with a, I don't know, 60-degree V-bit, cutting 1/4 of an inch deep, which will give you a nice silver pinstripe, you know. Alan's wondering, can you go in the Y direction? Yes, sir, you can. And what we would do in that case, let me go ahead and put these on their own layer. And we'll move these to new layer. I'll just call it layer 2. And come up here and I'll turn off layer 2. If we want to go in the Y direction, I just change my angle up here to 90 degrees, preview, and now everything goes in the Y direction. Let me bring the noise way down to 0, preview that, and now the texture runs in the Y direction. So, yes, I am, Greg. Yes, I am. And it doesn't have to be those cardinal directions. It could be anywhere in between. You want to go 45 degrees, and we go 45 degrees. You want to go the other way, you can go negative 45 degrees. Preview, and they go the other direction. So, say you did have this path cut and epoxied it. Could you cut chevrons into that second color instead of a stripe? You can cut whatever you would like. You can cut whatever you would like, yes. You'd have to draw those chevrons in, but that's where there are a lot of, oops, I thought I hit OK. Let's bring that back up. Preview those. Okay, we'll click OK. But that's where a lot of this, okay, can textures follow curves automatically? Textures can't. But you can create vectors that you can carve those textures with and then extrude them along the vector. That's what I was just getting ready to say. So let's say, for example, I ungroup this. Come on, thank you. And I come down here on this one, and I do a chevron. I don't know, what would you call a chevron? It would be no, I'm not going to put it on that escape. Let's draw a chevron. A chevron, the easiest way to do it would be close, and I didn't make them the same height, but that's okay. And a chevron would be close. Come on, Mark. Let's just draw another vector here. All right, close. I know I'm doing this the long way around. There. Chevron goes the other direction. But vertical, boom, there we go. And close. Now let me get in here and resize. Way down. There we go. Now drag it. Drag it down to this one here. And put it, boom. All right, I have one chevron, kind of. Nope. There we go. Now I can extrude this, or not extrude this, but I can copy it along that vector. Select what I want to copy, hold down Shift, select what I want it to copy to, and let's see, I can either specify a distance or I can specify the number of copies. Let's go with, let's say 20, just for giggles. Align them to the curve. That means they will change as the curve changes direction. And create the copies on a new layer. I want them to be on their own layer. And we'll copy them. And they have rotated with that vector. So I've got all these copies. They're not actually going the way I want them to go. Control Z. Now let's copy. That's better. Okay. Close. And now they are on their own layer. I can turn that off. Then I can go back and regroup these. Come on. Thank you. And then go for it that way. Yeah, absolutely, Butch. It's just another one of those gadgets and tools that's a lot of fun to just play with. And Lord knows what you can come up with. I mean, folks were talking about creating their own diamond plate last week, like diamond plate aluminum. You certainly could. You could create all kinds of textures this way. Just, and it is, you're absolutely right. It's one of those tools that you can get into and have a lot of fun with. So, and it's cliched to say it, but it is the case. You have so many options, it's not even funny. Your only limit is your imagination. And I know that's cliched to say it, but it is true. Excuse me. Okay. I think I got everybody's question. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end this. My voice is starting to give out, and I still have tomorrow to go. What's tomorrow? Tomorrow is members only live stream, and we'll have another special guest, Mike Bernasconi. We're going to talk about image processing for vector creation, for bitmap tracing, for 3D modeling, etc. Mike has been doing a lot of stuff in this, and he's come up with some really cool methods and some really cool tips and tricks. Alan, no news on version 12 other than it's going to be this month. You know as much as I do. Raymond, thank you for becoming a channel member. Welcome aboard. It's a great group of people. And that's what we were just talking about. Tomorrow night, members only live stream. If you go to the community tab here on my YouTube channel, you'll find a link to that members only live stream. We go Mondays from 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern until whenever. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, or you want more information on how to become a member, like Raymond just did, hit that little join button right next to the subscribe button. A panel will pop up and a video will play. It'll tell you all about channel membership. We got a great bunch of people. You guys are a real hoot and real dedicated friends, I got to say. So, welcome aboard, Raymond. Hope to see you tomorrow evening. Everybody else, next week, I will try to figure out what's going on with this gadget. We may have some unfinished business. We may not. Other than that, I don't know what I want to talk about next week, but that's where you come in. Leave a suggestion down in the description box of this live stream. I want to know what you want to see, what you don't want to see, what you're tired of seeing, anything you want to take a deep dive into. I don't know unless you tell me. So leave a comment, please. Members, I'll see y'all tomorrow evening. The rest of y'all, take care. Have a good one. Have a good week. Take care of yourself. It's no fun being sick. Y'all take care and thank you.